Of course, technology doesn't have to be brand new to be applied in an original fashion. There are 3,000 types of plants in this Hertfordshire garden centre, every one of them unique. They all bloom at different times, can grow to amazing heights, and some need specialist care. Choosing the plant that's just right for your garden can be a very real problem. There are so many variables: colour, season, height and price. And assuming you get that right, will the plant actually grow in your garden with its variables of soil type, drainage and position? Say you're looking for a plant with red flowers which blooms in autumn, grows to no more than 3 feet, is happy in the shade and doesn't demand all your attention. How on earth do you find such a plant? Well, you could consult an expert, but just when you want them, experts always seem to have their hands full. Alternatively, there are plenty of gardening books. But imagine how long it would take to leaf through all these volumes trying to root out exactly the right plant. It would take forever. This is the answer: a computerized database, an electronic catalogue of all the plants stored on a computer. The information is stored in a kind of electronic card index. Each plant has its own record, similar to a card, and on that record are details of its characteristics. Here's a new record, and it's being filled in just the same way as a new card is created. Each item or characteristic on the card is known as a field. But how does all this technology help you find that elusive plant, the one that matches precisely what you want and your garden can support?
Oh yes, I do hope you can. I'm looking for a plant to fill in a gap in my garden.
What sort of thing was it you were looking for?
Well, something that doesn't cause me a lot of trouble.
Right, a shrub?
A shrub would be fine, yes.
Right, well if you'd like, we can go through on the computer and maybe print you out a list.
Yes, please, that would be very helpful.
After the plant's details are fed into the computer, the system takes into account your garden as well.
Right, that's the, we've got the plant sorted out. Now the garden. What's the position that's going to be planted in like?
Well, it's going to just be in part shade and part sun.
Is it exposed? Normal?
Not very exposed. There is a wall around the garden.
It's quite normal in between.
Yes.
And is it sunny, shady?
Well, no, it gets some sun and it's in the shade some of the day as well, so it's
Semi.
a bit of both.
Right, we'll put this through the computer. We should come out with a list.
Thank you very much.
The computer now has all the information it needs to start a thorough search of every plant, looking for an exact match. In this case, it's found half a dozen plants which fit the bill precisely. Armed with a printed list, the customer can then go off and see which plant she likes.
There we are.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
In fact, because the computer is so thorough, searching every record for a match, it will probably come up with a few suggestions that even the experts might have forgotten. It was Barry Tyler's idea to computerize the garden centre. It was a gamble. It always is when you're the first to try something, but it's been enormously successful.
The prime reason for introducing the computer was because we found that the customers were asking the same 20 or 30 questions, and as plants fall into certain categories, we could categorize them and put them onto a computer. The staff, we find, like it very much indeed. We have knowledgeable staff on the premises, but of course they do have to have days off. And when the staff aren't here, the staff with perhaps slightly less knowledge have a lot more confidence in answering customers' questions. They can go to the computer, key in the appropriate number, and bring all the information about that plant up onto the screen, and the customer can read it, have it in writing, or whatever they like. They have accurate information. The advantages are perhaps twofold. The fact that we can get all our labelling done accurately, there are no abbreviations, no misspellings, and of course the sheer volume of labels that we produce is ideal for a computer. And the second reason is that customers can go away from our premises here with written information. They are absolutely delighted. They come back again and again. The staff get on with it very well indeed because it gives them a lot of confidence in what they're doing. It's positively excellent.
Well, if you're running a small business or perhaps a club or society, you have to keep track of a lot of information. The traditional way to manage this data uses reams of paper and a filing system to keep it all under control. At its simplest, a database is organised rather like a card filing system. This is a file of 154 flowers that we held in alphabetic order. And each card is a record, and the name, the Latin name, colour, height and so on are fields in that record. Now, if I want the details of one flower, say goat's beard, it's fairly easy. They're in alphabetic order, and I can quickly go through them like that, flipping through, looking for the name, and there it is, goat's beard, Aruncus sylvester, yellow, 200 and so on. But if I want all the yellow flowers over 1 metre high, then it's much more difficult. I've got to read every card, one after the other, from beginning to end, to sort out the yellow flowers over 1 metre high. It's a very laborious job and very boring. Fred?
Well, let's try to do the same thing on a simple computer database, the sort available for most home micros. First of all, I need to create that file. Well, here we are, create a file, that's option 1 here. Pop that in. Now, before I can enter any details of those plants, I must describe how each record will be organised. I've got to make a template, in other words, the equivalent to this blank card. This just shows the fields, the plant name, Latin name, colour and so on. Right, well, the computer's going to help me do all this. It's called initialising. It says how many fields will each record need? Well, the card has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, so I enter 6. Then field number 1, what name is to be used to identify this field? Maximum 7 characters. Now, that's the first problem. I'm limited to 7 letters. Well, here we've got plant name on the card, but I'll just have to settle for plant, I suppose. Plant. And what is the maximum number of characters that it will need? Between 2 and 240. Now, that's the field length. The problem here, you see, is memory. All my data is going to be stored on a disk, and if I choose 240 characters, I'll soon run out of space. Well, I know that 35 letters will be long enough for a plant name, so I'll pop that in. And then it comes on to field number 2. What name is to be used for that? Well, it did say Latin name, but I'll settle for Latin, and so on. Well, you can see that this will take a few minutes. And once I've set up this template, that's when the real donkey work starts, filling in all the details for 150-odd plants. But fortunately, one of our stalwart backroom boys has done all that for me. So I can just move deftly to this other machine and say, here's one I started earlier. Now, you can see here that this is the 154th record, and putting in all those details took a couple of evenings, so it's quite a slog. There's still just a few fields to complete here. The soil, I know, must be fertile, and aspect should be sunny for this particular plant. And there it is, the database is now complete. So now I can do some useful things with it. For example, I can flick through the pages easily enough, but that's no great shakes. But I could get the machine to resort those records according to size or the soil type if I wanted. Anyway, let's solve Mac's problem. I want to find a tall yellow flower. So I want to search through this file. Now my crib card here tells me that a search is this key, F2, press that. Now I've got to put in the particulars of what I want. Well, I don't care what the plant is called. And I certainly don't care about the Latin name. The colour I do mind about, that's got to be yellow. And the height, well, that's got to be tall, let's say over 100 centimetres. Well, that's the sign for greater than 100. Soil and aspect, oh, well, let's say I don't care about those. Okay, and off it goes. Now, this will take nearly a minute, and that might come as a bit of a surprise. But you see, the computer is looking at every record like this. It's going through saying, there's a yellow one, but it's not tall enough. Okay, well, here's a tall one, but it's not yellow. Oh, here's one that's both tall and yellow. And then it earmarks that. But of course, to do that, it has to examine all 154. Okay, but why is it taking so long? Well, this particular micro has a very limited memory for that kind of work. All the time it's pulling data in and out from the disk here, and that's what's taking the time. Now, in fact, although that's not ideal for a studio demonstration, it's no great problem, really. You can always pop and make a cup of tea. Anyway, that should be nearly up now. I timed this out earlier today, and it was 46 seconds. Yes, there we are. And the records found are 6. There are 6 plants in the database that might be suitable. Let's see what they are. The first one is goat's beard, as we suspected, yellow, 200 centimetres tall. The next one is, what? Sunflower, also yellow, also 200 centimetres tall. So you see, it may be a simple system, but it can have practical uses. It's very cheap, it's easy to use, and it's flexible. So a home database like this would probably be up to cataloguing, say, your stamp or your record collection. The drawback is it's slow. You could end up drinking an awful lot of tea.
With real business applications, speed is more important. Files are going to be bigger and much more complex. Business machines now use 16 or even 32-bit processors with at least 500,000 characters of internal memory, so they can pull in more data at a time, usually from a 10 or 20 megabyte hard disk. The programs tend to be better written, probably in machine code for speed, and they can cost several £100s. Well, this is a 16-bit Nimbus machine, which is going to look through the same 154 records and extract yellow flowers over 1 meter high, and it's really quite rapid. Here we go. Already we've got Goat's Beard, there it is, and 154 records, 6 records, so it's very, very fast. Just about time for a sip of Fred's tea. Well, this is still only the simplest form of database, though, just the equivalent of a card file. Real business applications need more versatile systems. We'll be looking at the range of database packages available for business micros later in the series.